Fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life, son.
Story today, the death of young comedian Chris Farley. At 33 years old, Mr. Farley has succumbed to a heart attack in Chicago. He was found dead in a Fred's apartment. Chris Farley became famous on Saturday Night Live and then had a string of successful movies, but like John Candy and John Belushi, to name just two, Mr. Farley could not control his appetites. By all accounts, he overate and was at times wildly out of control. Joining us now from Los Angeles is a man who makes his living working for Hollywood stars. Don Crutchfield is the president of Crutchfield Investigations and has written a book called Confessions of a Hollywood PI. What was the word on the street in L.A. about Chris Farley, Don?
Well, Bill, he was out of control. I mean, heavily into drugs. Of course, he overate, drinking, partying, staying up all night, party hardy, just let's not miss a party. It kind of reminded me of John Belushi. I mean, very talented guy. He had a lot going for him, but it's just another episode in Hollywood of what happens.
Yeah, and John Belushi was his idol, according to some press reports. We heard here in New York that he was a guy who just did everything to excess. The press did not report on Farley's drug use, but that is what you heard. What was he into, cocaine?
Cocaine and heroin.
Really?
Heavy into heroin, that's what I heard, yeah.
Well, that would certainly, if that's true, lend itself to the heart condition because, as you know, heroin does affect the heart.
Well, and also cocaine would, too. I mean, that really makes the heart race, and being that much overweight and, eating the way he did, it's probably a wonder he lived as long as he did, to be honest with you.
Now, you guard a lot of Hollywood celebrities, and you have seen their behavior up close firsthand.
Right.
Do you ever say anything to these people? Do you ever try to say, gee, you might want to modify it a little bit, or is it just your job just to see that they get home at night?
It depends. It depends what kind of job you're doing. If you're doing a bodyguard job, that's one thing. If you're trying to get somebody straight because they have to go to court, and they're telling you, the attorneys and everything, make sure that they don't get any drugs, they don't do any drinking, they behave themselves, you almost have to put them down on the bed and sit on their chest. I mean, it gets that tight. One of my first celebrity clients was Judy Garland. I'll be honest with you, I couldn't handle her. Her husband, Sid Luft, who was a good friend of mine, he couldn't handle her. She tried to commit suicide about 20 times when they were married. But she would be going on a big show opening night, and Sid's made sure there's no drugs anywhere around. She gets a bouquet of roses. The drugs are hidden in the roses. The next thing you know, she's on the floor screaming and yelling, and she ain't going on. And so it is so difficult. If somebody, I mean, you're almost going to have to go to the bathroom with them to keep the drugs away from them, and then sometimes it doesn't work.
Well, in Bob Woodward's book, Wired, about John Belushi, that exactly happened. He had guys following him all over the place. His wife, Judy Belushi, had hired these men, and he would go into the bathroom, and I guess he had made a call, and somebody had the stuff in the stall, and that's how he would get it.
Right.
Do you ever talk, or have you ever talked to somebody like Miss Garland or anybody else and said, why do you do this? You have money, you have fame. Why are you destroying yourself? Have you ever really confronted anybody that way?
Yes, I have. With Judy, to be honest with you, I just couldn't handle her. I mean, I worked for a lot of big celebrities, but she was a nice lady. But when she got behind those pills, it was a different person. It was a monster. It was Jekyll and Hyde. And you couldn't talk to her about anything when that would happen. When she was not on the stuff, she was a wonderful person.
Did you say to her when she was sober, you know, you're a lot different when you're taking the pills, they're destroying you? And what would her reply?
Oh, she would agree with you 100%. No problem, But still, if she got a chance to do it, she'd do it. And, I mean, all you'd have to do is turn your back. You could be making a phone call, and then the next thing you know, you see her and you're going, oh, my God, we're in for a rough day. And I finally walked out. I said, Judy, I was protecting her because some crazy fan of hers said that if I murder Judy Garland, we'll go through eternity together.
Yeah.
Which is hairy banana times. And when somebody starts talking like that, you pay attention.
Right.
And she was terrified.
It's my theory that people like River Phoenix, who died of a heroin overdose at a young age, and Belushi, and even John Candy, who really literally ate himself to death,
True.
and this guy Farley, they know they're self-destructive, but they just can't stop for some reason.
Bill, in my book, Confessions of a Hollywood P.I., I talk about Charles Bronson and Jill Ireland's son, Jason, whose best friend was Hugh O'Connor. They both died because of drugs. They both had everything in the world going for them. They were good-looking kids. They were smart. They were bright. They wouldn't take rehab. They'd check themselves out of rehab. Their parents fought for their life and lost. And I was in there, too. I was in the struggle. And drugs is a heavy-duty foe. It's a tough one to beat, I got to tell you. And also, you got to remember something. Nobody says no to these people.
Yeah.
It's always yes. Well, I mean, I know how to say no, and I know what no means when somebody... it's a funny thing that Robert Downey Jr. and Christian Slater finally found a couple of judges who cared enough to give them some time.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if the prison sentences do turn their lives around. Listen, Don, thanks very much for coming on with us on short notice. We appreciate it.